What is up, everybody? Back with another really cool top 10 here today. And once again, I'm joined by Nick Franco from Sea of Tranquility and crypticrock.com. Thanks a lot for coming back on. Nick, how's it going?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to join you once again. It's cool.
Sweet. So today we're going to each be giving our top 10 albums from 1993. Really cool year with a pretty wide variety of stuff. Of course, like extreme metal was coming to the forefront with different death and black metal. There was still some slivers of glam type metal, thrash, all kinds of stuff. So we're just going to jump straight into this, starting off with Nick's number 10. What you got?
So I'm going with an album that at the time I liked, and I like it even more now. And it was important because, like you said, things were changing. Grunge and shit was coming on. But Merciful Fate came back with In the Shadows, Metal Blade Records that year. And I just think that is such a cool album. And I listened back to it, and it just got that, the twin guitar. It was Denner and Sherman.
Mm-hmm.
And just such a great performance, like a theatrical performance from King Diamond. And at a time when metal was starting to become, oh, we got to get all different, and Metallica was different, and everybody was leaving, and all this shit. They really just stuck with it, and they made a great album, In the Shadows. So that's my number 10. And I think my top songs on there are Egypt, Old Oak Tree, and probably Gruesome Time, I think. Probably that.
Awesome.
I might have got that one. Yeah.
That's a great album. It's a good pick.
Thanks.
Cool. So with my number 10, this is going to be kind of like the outlier of the list here, but it's going to be Exposed by Vince Neil. This is his first solo album. So, of course, this is kind of glam type metal. And that's what I love about this, because 1993, everybody was changing their sounds. And Vince Neil and the people he had on this album, Steve Stevens on guitar, who's an absolute freaking shred machine, amazing guitar player. If you listen to this without knowing it came out in 93, you think it was released in 87, which I love. Tommy Shaw and Jack Blades co-wrote some stuff. Phil Sussin, who was, I think, on The Ultimate Sin by Ozzy, co-wrote some stuff. But a lot of awesome stuff here. Looking at these songs, Sister of Pain's great. You're Invited But Your Friend Can't Come, which was on the Encino Man soundtrack. It's a really amazing riff, cool song. And I'd probably go with Set Me Free is another really great song with amazing guitar playing from Steve Stevens. Definitely check this out if you like that, like 80s glam metal type stuff. Exposed, number 10.
Nice. Awesome. That's pretty cool. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So for my number 9, I'm going across the pond to England to My Dying Bride and their album Turn Loose the Swans, which is just a miserable doom, beautiful doom album. And really, at the time, the Peaceville Records bunch there, Anathema, because I almost picked Anathema. I love them too. Serenade's good album. But I picked Turn Loose the Swans because Aaron Stainthorpe's vocals are just so tortured and just amazing. They really, it's just a miserable, poetic, dirgy album that rocks in places. So I got to go with 1993's Turn Loose the Swans. My favorite songs are Sear Me, The Songless Bird, and Crown of Sympathy, which is just heavy.
Sweet. So with my number 9, I'm going to go with the album Screams and Whispers by a band called Anacrusis. Now, this is a really cool, like, kind of progressive thrash metal band. They're from Missouri, I think, here in the USA. So their 4th album overall, I think, and I think it's maybe their best. I really like their debut album, Suffering Hour, from 1988 as well. But awesome musicianship here, just really cool sounding proggy stuff, which typically I'm not really into, like progressive metal, but just the thrash elements mixed in here make it sound super cool to me. Favorite songs on it, I would say, are Sound the Alarm, which is the opener. Fantastic stuff. Sense of Will, Too Many Prophets, and probably Division. A lot of cool stuff here. Screams and Whispers, my number 9.
Awesome. Now I got to check them out. I've definitely heard the name.
Yeah, they're great.
Cool. So my number 8, I'm going up to Sweden, which I tend to spend some time at musically. So the album is In the Forest of the Dreaming Dead, and the band is a lot of glare, is Unanimated. Yeah.
Cool.
And Unanimated, the cool thing about them is they're death metal. They got that Swedish sound, but they have a lot of black metal atmospherics going on. And it was probably chronologically the first album that I ever heard that had a black metal atmosphere besides Beharit, which was so over the top to me. This was more accessible. Really great riffs, bang your head to it, but they had some real dirgy sort of like keyboard laden interludes, which I thought, I don't know, it's such a great album.
Hmm.
In the Forest of the Dreaming Dead. And my favorite songs are Whispering Shadows, Firestorm, and the real dirgy one, Cold Northern Breeze. So I don't know if you ever hear them, that you probably
Yeah, I've heard them not in a while. I'm gonna have to revisit that. So
yeah, that's a good one.
probably after this video, I'm definitely gonna go check that out. But cool. So my number 8 is gonna be Strange Highways by Dio. Now, of course, this one feels a lot like Dehumanizer Part 2, which, everybody kind of says that, but got that same kind of feel, super heavy, angry sounding album. I think Dio, Ronnie might have been kind of upset a little bit of what happened there with Black Sabbath. Like they wanted Ronnie and Black Sabbath to open for Ozzy, and he was like, no. And he just like quit the band. So him and Vinny Appice got back the Dio band. They got Tracy G on guitar, who I think is a pretty cool player, and actually Jeff Pilson from Dokken, who I'm a huge fan of. But this is an awesome album. Some of my favorites are Jesus, Mary, the Holy Ghost, and the Holy Ghost, which is the opener, Firehead, the title track, and Bring Down the Rain. Top to bottom, really good. Probably his heaviest album, Strange Highways, number 8.
Yeah, Mr. Pilson gets a lot of talk on the Hudson Valley Squares show I'm on, especially Sydney Taylor, the young lady on there. She's a huge Jeff Pilson fan. Cool. So moving right along on number 7, I'm staying in Sweden, and I'm going with Dismember, the album Indecent and Obscene on Nuclear Blast Records, recorded at Sunlight Studios. For a follow-up album, they had big, big shoes to fill, their own shoes, but like an ever-flowing stream, and so good. So how did they come back? They came back with this, and it's got riffs all day. It's very musical and melodic in a way, but it cuts like a knife. So Dismember, really, really raw, kind of that raw production sound. Matty Karki just sounds like a murderer on it. And my favorite songs on it are Skin Father, Reborn in Blasphemy, and Ninth Circle.
Very cool. So good pick. My number 7, I'm going to go with Set the World on Fire by Annihilator. Now, Annihilator is a band where I say this like every time I talk about Annihilator, but a lot of people say, just the first 2 albums are good. I really disagree with that. I think, Jeff Waters can really do no wrong for the most part. The guy is a freaking machine. One of my favorite guitar players of all time. Just his tone, his riffs, his melodies, his solos are so like majestic and fast and just amazing. But really, this is a pretty damn good album here. Looking at these songs, the title track is one of my favorite songs by them of all time. Night Jumps Queen has that super awesome bass intro, which is freaking amazing. I think something also that kind of hurts Annihilator with people not wanting to stick with them is all the vocalist changes, because they had a different singer on each of the first 4 albums. But this guy's a decent singer on this album. But as I said, Night Jumps Queen, title track, No Zone, Don't Bother Me, Brain Dance, The Edge, a lot of really good songs here. So that's my number 7, Set the World on Fire.
Yep, they're underrated as hell. Very good. So cool. So my number 6, I'm remaining in Sweden. I didn't realize that, like 3 Swedish bands in a row. We're going over to Marduk for Those of the Unlight, with a very cool Ring Wraiths cover.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, all things Lord of the Rings side somewhere. I don't know.
Sick.
But you still had that guy Joachim on vocals, and it's funny, if you listen to really old Marduk, they sound really melodic, like not quite new wave British heavy metal, black metal, but like they definitely had a lot of melody going on in those early albums, which I think is really, really cool. Like the songs on here are you could bang your head to them. It's not just straight ahead shred, rapid fire blast beats. It's really musical, and I think the top tracks are the title track, and then Wolves, which is one of my favorite Marduk songs. You could one of Mosh, but you could have to that one. And at the end, Stone Stands Its Silent Vigil is such a cool. They like to slow it down. Morgan can write those dirgy songs. So definitely Marduk, Those of the Unlight.
Awesome. And I got my list here. That's actually like at number 11, like my first honorable mention, super close to making it for me, but yeah, it's a great album. But my number 6, I'm going to go with I Hear Black by Overkill. Now, Overkill, I've said this a lot, I think is one of, if not the most consistent band like in all of metal. They've got 19, 20 albums now. Almost all of them are really good. I Hear Black, I think it's the one directly after Horoscope, which is my favorite album by them. It's kind of like that. It's a bit groovier. It's really heavy, kind of doomy in spots. Looking at these songs, I'd say, like Undying is probably my favorite. Ignorance and Innocence is great. Spiritual Void has a really classic Black Sabbath feel to it, like Master of Reality. Super heavy, awesome riff in that song. And the title track is great. But love this album here. I Hear Black, number 6.
Nice, nice, good one, good pick. So now I'm headed up to Norway, but I'm staying in the realm of black metal. For my number 5, we're going with Dark Throne, Under a Funeral Moon on Peaceful Records. Very raw, but a lot more musical than people might think. A lot of beautiful riffs on this album. Fenris and Nocturno Culto. You know, I probably in 1993, I probably would have thought it was too raw, but my musical tastes have gotten more savage as I've gotten older. And I just think Under a Funeral Moon is fantastic. The iconic cover, top tracks, Unholy Black Metal, title track, and Crossing the Triangle of Flames. What a vicious but musical masterpiece by Dark Throne.
Very cool. So with my number 5, I'm going to go with Edge of Thorns by Sabotage. Now, this was the last album with Chris Oliva on guitar before he tragically passed away in that car crash, which was just awful, hit by a dumbass drunk driver. But one of the best guitar players of all time. Just again, like his guitar playing is mesmerizing. His solos, his riffs, melodies, tone, everything about it's great. This was actually the first album with Zach Stevens on vocals. Don't like him as much as John Oliva, which is Chris's brother, but he's a pretty good singer as well. Looking at these songs, He Carves a Stone is great. Lights Out is just an amazing song. One of their best. The guitar solo, and that's ridiculous. So if you don't know the album, anyone watching here, definitely go check out that song first. Scraggy's Tomb, Degrees of Sanity is amazing. So really, most of this album is really cool. The rhythm section is great as well. Just, yeah, Edge of Thorns, my number 5.
Nice, classic, beautiful. So my number 5, I'm finally stepping away from Scandinavia and blackened church-burning darkness, and I'm going over to England to Motorhead. The album Bastards. Mickey D's debut with Motorhead. Maybe their heaviest album at that point. On Your Feet or On Your Knees, Burner, and I love Lost in the Ozone, which is kind of like a ballad. That is a Motorhead statement. That's them saying, you know, we are heavy and we are going to knock you right through the wall. And in hindsight, I think as the music business was changing in the 90s with grunge and everything, again, it was a weird time. You know, I was in high school at that time, and it was like I was getting into all this heavy stuff, and then just seeing all this like grunge take over was kind of disheartening. But Motorhead was making a giant statement with Bastards, and that's my number 5. What a kick-ass album.
Awesome. I think we were at number 4 there. Was that number 4?
I think that was Yes, I Cannot Count, and that was number
okay. I was just making sure I wasn't off there, but okay. So number 4.
You know,
yeah, it's yeah, but cool. So that's a great album. My number 4 is going to be In the Shadows, one you had at number 10 by Merciful Fate. So great stuff here. It was the reunion, first album since Don't Break the Oath in '84 by them. They have the whole lineup except for Kim Ruz, who was the drummer on those first 2 albums. Timmy Hansen on bass was on this album, but then he left after this. On the bass player, he wasn't there after this. But of course, Michael Denner and Hank Sherman, amazing duo on guitar. Riffs and solos all over the place on this album are amazing. King Diamond on the vocals, one of the most unique and best singers in all of metal. My favorite songs on here, I would probably go with Egypt, The Bell Witch, and lost my count here. Shadows, Is That Melissa, or Is That You, Melissa? That's an amazing song as well. Just top to bottom, this is a great album. In the Shadows, my number 4.
Yeah, when I got that album, it was right after it came out, and God help any friends of mine that were named Melissa, because I would always scream that part of them. I didn't have a lot of friends because of things like that. All right, number 3, right?
Yeah,
top 3. Okay,
yes,
we are going right over to. This is one of just one of the finest albums out there. We're going with Morbid Angel, Covenant. And I have the version that was. I didn't realize this was like one of the first or the first death metal albums released on a major label, Giant Records. I had forgotten that. It was released, I think, on Earache everywhere else. So anyway, you had the classic David Vincent, Trey Azagthoth, and Pete Commando Sandoval on drums. Man, I mean, to me, this was Morbid Angel's last truly great album. And there may be a lot of people disagree. That's great. Comment on it, curse me out. It's all good. But Covenant to me was their absolute height. And nowhere is that better seen than in that opening song, Rapture, one of the best death metal songs of all time. Jesus. And World of Shit, The Promised Land, and Angel of Disease, which I used to just play on repeat. Talk about guitar work. So Covenant is my number 3. What an album.
Cool. So with my number 3, I'm going to go with Pure Holocaust by Immortal. Love these guys. They're like definitely a top 3 black metal band for me. On this album, it was just Demonaz and Abath. Abath did the drumming on this, and dude is freaking an awesome drummer. Just machine blast beats, double bass kick, really cool stuff. And of course, the guitar playing from Demonaz is great as usual. The songs, most of them are great, but Unsilent Storms in the North Abyss is fantastic. Assigned for the Norse Hordes to Ride, another favorite, and Frozen by Ice Winds are probably my top 3. But one of my favorite black metal albums of all time, so definitely got to be on this list here. Pure Holocaust, number 3.
I can't believe you picked Pure Holocaust because my next album is Pure Holocaust.
Oh, sweet. Nice.
First of all, look at that cover. I mean, is that black metal a lot? Like here we are, Don, we're pissed off. I just, man. It's so cold and so awesome. What an album. And like you said, Unsilent Storms in the North Abyss, the title track and The Sun No Longer Rises are one of the ones that I might get. Yeah. Pitten, Greg Holland recording, very, very, really important, what do you call it? Moment in black metal that all the albums that came out of there. So absolutely Pure Holocaust. Amazing.
Very cool. So my number 2, I think could maybe be your number 1. I'm not sure if it will be, but my number 2, I'm going to go with The Somberlin by Dissection. Mm-hmm. Amazing band, classic melodic black metal, kind of like the gold standard Dissection is. Those first 2 albums, just great stuff. John Navdeet, vocals and guitar. It's crazy because he was like 18 when this was recorded, which is just super impressive. Black Horizons, the title track, Frozen, and The Cold Winds of Nowhere, which might be my favorite song by them. Just top to bottom, absolute classic here in black metal. The Somberlin, my number 2.
Nice. That was in my master list, but it didn't.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm one of those people. I picked up Storm of the Lightsbane by accident somewhere because of the cover, and I fell so much in love with that. I do love the Somberlin, but I'm one of those Storm of the Lightsbane.
Okay.
But no, my number 1 is probably going to surprise you or people. I don't know even how well known it is. But my number 1 album, 1993, is Meathook Seed. Did you ever hear them?
I have not.
They only put out 2 albums. This was the first one. The album's called Embedded, Meathook Seed, on Earache Records. And you had Mitch Harris from Napalm Death, Trevor Perez, and Don Tardy from Obituary. Oh. And they got together, and they made an album. Now, I do love industrial music, and when in the 90s, you had some experimental industrial metal crossovers. So these guys you had some samples, but it was like very heavy and very groovy. And remember, this was a time when like you had grunge, but you also had what was going to eventually wind up becoming like, groove metal or whatever, new metal, whatever you want to call it. This is not that.
Yeah.
But it was like, you could see like it was like an embryonic version of what that might be, but it was very good. It was dark, really dystopian themes, death metal vocals, really great arrangements, groovy, industrial death metal, Meathook Seed. I definitely recommend. This is like a diamond in the rough, like, something you might not expect even existed. And I've had this. This was from the day. This is one of the first, if not the first pressing of it. And what was I going to say? Oh, my favorite songs off it are probably Famine Sector, Fumed Grave, and Focal Point Blur, which, if people know about this, if not, check it out, man. It had that feeling of mid-90s Napalm Death with a little bit of an industrial tinge. Just kick-ass Meathook Seed.
Very cool. I'll definitely have to check that out pretty soon. So my number 1 is a really popular one. So Individual Thought Patterns by Death. Super well-known album, of course. Death is my favorite death metal band by far. Chuck Schuldiner. The lineup on this album is ridiculous. Chuck Schuldiner on guitar and vocals. Andy LaRock from King Diamond also played lead guitar on this. Gene Hoglan and Steve DiGiorgio. ridiculous lineup. The freaking musicianship all over the album's amazing. Just great classic, like progressive death metal, technical death metal, whatever you want to call it. But you know, some of my favorite songs on here I go with are Overactive Imagination, Jealousy, and The Philosopher, which The Philosopher has a music video, which I think is really cool. And they like had it on Beavis and Butthead back in the day. They were just like making fun of Chuck and his voice and stuff, but that's pretty funny. But yeah, this is an amazing album, top to bottom, super consistent, as pretty much all the Death albums are. But yeah, that's for sure my number one, Individual Thought Patterns. And some honorable mentions you got?
Yeah, you know, I almost put Heartwork by Carcass on here. Goetia by the Brazilian black metal band Mystifier, really excellent. Varathron, Greek black metal. Absu. I would say, well, Dissection is one of mine. Thy Mighty Contract by Rotting Christ. Benediction, Transcend the Rubicon. And Angst by KMFDM, Industrial.
Cool. So some honorable mentions from me: Bastards, which you mentioned, by Motorhead; Objection Overruled by Accept; Death Samen Gangvar by Burzum, I think is pretty cool. An album called Dead Boys and Trash City, which is another like random glam metal band that came out too late. It's their debut. That's pretty good. I had Those of the Unlight, as I said, really close. Heartwork I had in my honorable mentions. The Reaper by Gravedigger, which is a great German like power / just traditional metal band. And actually Pull by Winger, which is their third album. And this one they went a bit heavier than they were on the first two, and that's just a pretty good album top to bottom there. But yeah, those were my honorable mentions, and that wraps up our list here. So Nick, thanks again for coming on, dude. This was great.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. So as usual, everybody, let us know your list in the comments. Let us know what you thought. And until next time, thank you for watching.